It's almost 50 years since Sir Robin Knox-Johnston completed his pioneering non-stop solo circumnavigation of the world.
Day 312, about 25 past 3 on April the 22nd, and Robin Knox-Johnston and Sue Haley have sailed non-stop around the world.
Nearly 3 decades later, the Clipper race was born. Sir Robin's concept was clear: sailing the world's toughest oceans in a circumnavigation around the planet. But not for an elite few. These would be everyday people with a thirst for adventure.
You know, life is for that, to take risks, to follow your dreams.
Now in the 11th edition of the biennial race, 700 participants from all walks of life, representing over 40 nationalities, will take on the challenge of dealing with whatever Mother Nature has in store. Battling the elements out on the world's greatest oceans, they will experience some of the toughest conditions imaginable. From hurricane-force winds to squalls that can knock a boat flat. From stifling heat to sub-zero conditions and the danger of possible injury.
If you could imagine taking a cheese wire and almost cutting down that line.
They must learn to live with strangers, sailing 24 hours a day for weeks on end, all within the confines of a 70-foot yacht in the middle of the ocean. 40,000 miles, 13 races, 12 identical yachts, 6 continents, 1 unique challenge. This is the race of their lives. Coming up, it's the big one as the Clipper race crews face up to their biggest challenge in this epic circumnavigation of the planet, the mighty Pacific Ocean. It has a fearsome reputation, and it's not clear how well everyone will cope. We meet 2 novice Mexican sailors who joined for the ride of their lives, and a sailor testing her nerve as the teams are pushed to their limits, facing hurricane-force winds, monstrous waves, and relentless freezing temperatures. It's an experience they will never forget. The Clipper Race is a global series of 13 races between 6 continents over 11 months. Starting in England, the first race is a downward roller coaster to Punta del Este, Uruguay. Race 2 takes on the South Atlantic to South Africa, and then it's the infamous Southern Ocean sleigh ride. The Australia leg is split into 3 from Fremantle, including the iconic Sydney-Hobart race, ending in Airlie Beach, before heading to the city of Sanya in China for the first time. Then it's north to a wintry QINGDAO before crossing the mighty Pacific Ocean to Seattle. The US coast-to-coast leg is 2 races via the Panama Canal up to New York. The final race leg sees the fleet cross the Atlantic Ocean to Northern Ireland, before race 13 and the sprint to the finish back in Liverpool. Many of the Clipper race sailors left Liverpool in England at the start of this adventure, heading to Uruguay. They crossed the South Atlantic Ocean to Cape Town before one of the toughest crossings of the infamous Southern Ocean in the 20-year history of the race. Then it was the all-Australian adventure that included the Blue Ribbon Sydney-Hobart race, before a long race north through the tropics to Sanya in China. Finally, it was a dramatic and bitterly cold race to the sailing city of QINGDAO in China. After 6 previous visits to the famous sailing city of QINGDAO, home of the 2008 Olympic sailing events, the venue has moved to a brand new marina, which has been created over the past 2 years on the west side of the bay, the impressive newly established Wanda Yacht Club. Lots of activities are planned.
This morning we went to see one of the cultural temples, learn a bit about Buddhism, meet the monks, ring the lucky bell, and we've been brought to the Cultural Experience Centre now. We've been doing a little Tai Chi and just seeing a bit more of the arts and craft, like scissor cutting and all very traditional Chinese.
And everyone is delighted to be able to join in too.
done today is visited a local primary school here in QINGDAO, the new western sector, and seen examples of some of the cultural things the young children, some of them 6 or 7 years old, are achieving. And it's really quite remarkable. And they've got a band, they've been showing us their dancing, showing us their painting. And it's been a lovely experience, quite honestly, watching these young people, obviously enthusiastic, very disciplined, but nevertheless learning about their own culture and showing it to us. And you realize they learned this right from the beginning. So no wonder the culture in China is so strong.
This 7th visit of the Clipper race to QINGDAO is welcomed once again in impressive style to honour the race and all the teams. Crew are flying out to join the race in QINGDAO for the Pacific leg. While some are returning, others are excited to be joining the circumnavigators on their team for the first time. Linda Crocker took part in the 2015-16 edition, and she's back with the home port team, QINGDAO.
I obviously have a love of sailing. I really, really enjoy sailing. And also my friend Sarah, who was on QINGDAO, she fell outside QINGDAO and didn't complete leg 6. So she wanted to come back and complete leg 6, and I thought, well, she probably needed a friend for the trip, so it would be a good opportunity to come back and do another leg.
It's race preparation day at the Wanda Yacht Club, and the crews are focused on ensuring that their yachts are ready to take on the North Pacific crossing in the coming weeks. Everyone must attend the mass crew briefing at this brand new theatre, where the Clipper race management team provide final updates to the route and safety instructions, so they're all fully prepared.
Sail safe, sail fast, and look forward to seeing you all safe and sound, that's an order, in Seattle. Take care.
In race 9 to the Emerald City, the fleet will leave QINGDAO and race 5,600 nautical miles to Seattle, crossing some of the most inhospitable and remote expanses of water on the planet. There is a scoring gate where valuable bonus points can be won, and an Elliott Brown Ocean Sprint with yet more points at stake.
Expectations is it's going to be another tough one. And we know in previous race years they've had man overboards, dismasts, helm cages being flattened, 80 to 100 knot winds. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of trepidation amongst the whole crew and a little bit of scaremongering from previous race years. But I'm sure it'll be fine once we're all out there.
It's going to be a scary one, I think. It's going to be very cold. Definitely the most scared I've been out of any of the legs so far. A lot of challenges we're going to face.
It should be a fun race. Hopefully some nice speeds going down some waves. Hopefully the waves don't get too big, but it should be a fun sail. It'll be interesting out there.
It's been that leg that looms in your head for most of the way round, and actually now I just really want to face into it and get going and see what it's got to hold for us.
What are they looking at? Well, to start with, it looks like it'll be fairly calm, so they can settle in nicely. First 2 or 3 days, maybe. Then they'll get the other side of Japan, pick up the current, and that'll start to push them towards America. But then they've got that long passage across the North Pacific. And as I say, it can be fairly benign, but it can also blow up. And if it does, they're going to see some fairly extreme weather.
The departure ceremony in QINGDAO is a great tradition that is long remembered by all those who are fortunate enough to experience it. Staged for the first time at the new Wanda Yacht Club. A Le Mans-style start is planned for later in the day, but first they must motor through the fog for safety. On the way out to sea, the skippers once again reinforce that safety is paramount, and every team undertakes yet another drill of the man-overboard procedures they learn in training and practice before every leg of the race.
One, two, three.
Okay, buddy. You got your Simon.
It was consistent, it was loud, and it never ever stopped. And that note means that everyone on the boat knows that someone can see that person.
So it's 5 o'clock local time and we are still waiting for the fog to lift. We've made a decision in the fleet to postpone race start, motor overnight, keep going in the right direction. And hopefully in the morning we've got a better visibility, we can see each other, we can get a Le Mans start in and get the race going. It's a nice, easy start for us, nice relaxed night. We have to keep our eyes peeled, there's still a lot of fishing traffic around here. But yeah, nice night to just get everyone settled in on the boat and get into the watch system.
So it's a quieter start to this race than everyone has been anticipating, but it's safety first in the thick fog. Next morning, and the conditions and the radar are clearer, having continued to motor through the night further from shore. But the winds remain very light. Lead skipper Wendy on Sanya Serenity Coast coordinates on the radio as the 11 yachts gradually line up, ready to start the racing after a 10-minute countdown.
We are about 15 minutes away from the start of race 9 to Seattle, so we all starting to line up for Le Mans start. The crew needs to be behind the forward pedestal. After 1 minute when the engine is off, on go, then they go forward and then we start hoisting up the sails. We try to get the boat lined up as we can and maintaining the speed, and as the sails get up, if your team is quick enough to get the sails up, that's when you start making more way than the other boats. And depending where you position on the line as well, it can give you an advantage. If you're the windward boat, you get the wind first, and if you're in the mid-fleet, you're sort of mixed with the other dirts of the other boats.
As the wind slowly builds after the start, everyone is alert to the threat of tankers and fishing boats, who are not used to seeing racing yachts in the area, but all pass through safely despite some uncomfortably close encounters with fishing nets. The race to reach the North Pacific is on. Coming up, one crew member has had a unique experience in the race so far, and which is building her confidence. Meanwhile, after 7 months away from friends and family, the pressure is on for another crew member as the fleet heads into the ocean she fears most. But the Pacific is serene with beautiful weather as they sail past Japan. But this is the calm before the storms to come in the race of their lives. The Clipper Round the World Yacht Race is a 40,000-mile adventure for amateur sailors. The 11 crews have left QINGDAO in China and embarked on what could prove the biggest test of the entire circumnavigation as they head across the mighty Pacific Ocean. But light winds and fog off QINGDAO delayed the planned start, and now the wind is unseasonably light as the teams gradually settle into their watch routines, keeping a close eye on each other's moves as the days tick by and frustration builds. Aboard Dare to Lead, one novice sailor has finally found a home, having endured a remarkable race since leaving the UK 7 months earlier. After a life-changing decision to join the Clipper race, she was originally on the crew of the Greenings team, who won the opening 2 races despite an injury to their skipper in race 1. They left Cape Town as overall race leaders, only to suffer a disastrous grounding on rocks, so the team had to abandon the yacht in the darkness. It was damaged beyond repair and could no longer compete, so Jenny joined the crew of hotelplanner.com, who had to divert to a nearby port for a medical evacuation. Finally, she joined the Dare to Lead team in Australia and has been enjoying the race with her new teammates ever since.
I've had a very warm welcome from the team. I trained with them a lot because we shared training at level 4, so I knew quite a few of the team already, which is a big reason why Dare to Lead was a great choice for me. But yeah, very instantly felt at home, connected very well with the crew. We've had, you know, some changeover now amongst the team since Australia, but everyone's been brilliant in their own right. So feel very much at home. I've taken over as the TC from Lou, so supporting Dale in managing the boat and the team, which has been great. So it makes me feel really central to the team and the, you know, the campaign that we're running. So that's been fab, and I've really enjoyed that, and I love being kind of at the centre of things and making things happen with everybody else. So yeah, no, I absolutely feel part of the furniture now. I saw my mum and dad in China, which made me miss home quite a lot. And I did find the last leg particularly tough. It was tough conditions, it was cold. I just lacked a bit of energy, but I think this challenge ahead has really got me back on track. It's always been that one that I've known is going to be probably my biggest challenge. So definitely hit this leg with back on full throttle and looking forward to it. Just want to get going now. Never in my life did I think that I'd ever be able to complete a North Pacific crossing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that will all go well and we'll sail safe and get there all in one piece and hopefully have enjoyed it. It's just a massive life achievement, really. I don't think any of us on this boat ever thought this is what we might be doing one day, but to actually be doing it now is brilliant, and I just relish the challenge and see what beholds us.
But all of the yachts are struggling to make progress in the light wind. Certainly not the Pacific crossing they were fearing, as life aboard goes on at a slow pace. To add to the difficulty of sailing in light wind, there are large floating patches of seaweed to navigate around. The crew of Visit Seattle, heading for their home port, have eked out a hard-fought but narrow lead, despite the seaweed slowing them down. Circumnavigator Jerome volunteers to clear it, but the water is bitterly cold. Now a watch leader, he's one of the more experienced crew members on the team and has enjoyed his circumnavigation so far.
The highlight for me has been how we've been able to make a team, and I've been part of a team that has come together. We started leg 1 with an 11th place, and we've progressed since then, and the team has grown, and we've learned a lot about what makes us happy, what makes us work as a team with all the new people that come in. Lowlights, I think probably, there have not been very many. Yes, there are those days when you don't want to get out of bed because it's so cold, but that was also part of it for me. It was not meant to be easy, so I'm very happy with the experience so far. This race has many different aspects to it, and I think, obviously, from an obvious point of view, sailing is something I've learned a lot of, and understand a little bit more about how a sailing boat works and how to get the most out of it. On a personal note, staying positive, even when things aren't going our way or when I'm finding it very difficult. I think that's something I've definitely improved on. But also, one of my main aims was to be better with people and try and understand how I can keep a nice atmosphere around me. So that's been the big one for me. I am looking forward to this race. I think it's one of the jewels in the crown to cross the Pacific.
Pulling you up! Ready, 2, 6!
I'm quite anxious, but I think we've got a very good crew. The group of Round the Worlders we have on board are absolutely fantastic, and we get on really well, so that's a good core team we have to get us across. So I think that's, from that point of view, I'm very confident in this race and our ability to sail across safely.
7 days into the race to the Emerald City, and the approach to the North Pacific Ocean has so far failed to deliver more than a moderate breeze, as the teams pass the spectacular Japanese coastline, riding the northeasterly Kuroshio Current. While waiting for the breeze to strengthen, the crew of Visit Seattle share messages gathered ashore to read aloud for all to enjoy.
A week ago, my washing machine broke down, so I was inspired by you and tried to fix it. I ended up cutting my thumb open and flooding the kitchen. The machine is still broken and there are 2 screws left over because I cannot remember where they come from. Team Visit Seattle is so lucky to have you, Tom.
Thoughts are with those left behind at home and dearly missed.
Some of you had the dubious pleasure of sailing with me. Others have had the delight of not, but please, everybody enjoy it and live for the moment.
Nikki, who at just 24 years old is the youngest Clipper race skipper, is in the nav station overnight, looking at the fleet closing in. A huge wind hole has engulfed the team, and all their hard work is being eroded by the minute, as the rest of the fleet is going faster and compresses around them. It's a bitter disappointment for everyone, but the wind is set to return soon, when they hope to regain lost ground. Nearby on the Dare to Lead yacht, a UK-based Coast Guard officer has taken time out to fulfill her dream of sailing around the world, and she's having the time of her life. But despite her continually developing sailing skills, she remains nervous about helming in the big storms predicted.
Yeah, we're ready to get out there. It's been quite nice easing with a wind hole. Not sure how long it will last, but it'll be good to get the leggers settled. But ultimately, I think I'm ready to start tackling the mighty Pacific, see what it has to offer me. It feels like we've been out here for so long, yet the time's flown by, and once we reach to Seattle, we're practically home, really. I'm really looking forward to seeing family and friends. It's been a long time since I've seen them. There's certain things that I thought I'd come away learning a lot more than what I have, but there's some circumstances where it's just difficult to be able to learn what you want to learn. So as a crew member, it's been really good to develop my confidence and trust in the boat and crew. I know I can helm, but I need the confidence in the rougher weather. So when the boat's on her side and the guardrail's in the water, I shy away from the helm a lot, just because I feel a lot of responsibility for the crew, and that goes back to when I first started sailing. Ultimately, I thought the boat would capsize and I would drown. So I kind of lose my confidence, and that's what I'd like to develop a bit more. And hopefully in this leg, going into the Pacific, it'll give us some good, difficult conditions that my team have rallied behind me, gonna get them to push me on the helm a bit more and just develop my confidence in the helming, really.
Finally, on the 8th day of racing, and with just a few miles separating the leading teams, the wind begins to fill, the yachts heel and pitch, and the speeds rapidly increase, as do the smiles of those aboard enjoying the experience. This is the start of what they have been nervously anticipating. Below decks, it's becoming a juggling and balancing act, negotiating the cramped space with 20 other people, while racing into the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. The yachts slide over the swells, picking up speed, riding the Kuroshio current, helping to propel them along past Japan and into the approaches of the open North Pacific. There's no turning back now. On Dare to Lead, the wind is also welcomed, and there's a party. It's Charlie's birthday, and the crew have miraculously baked her a cake on the small gimbaled cooker.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
But on-watch crew are battling with a serious problem. Their mast track, which guides the main sail up the mast, has detached, and without it, they're on reduced sail power. Skipper Dale and the crew are working to repair it.
We've still got a long way to go, and I think as we head north through this after this mandatory gate now, we'll start to experience more cold, wet conditions. We've already had some damage this week with our mainsail track, which is really vitally important. If the mainsail track is damaged, you can't use the mainsail. And we had a section rip out completely, and then another section pull away from the mast. Anyway, we've repaired all of that, and it's holding up really well so far in these nice conditions. I have no doubt it'll probably hold up as the weather gets heavier as well.
Having led since the start, a recent tactical decision to head south has backfired for Nikki and the crew of Visit Seattle. They missed the wind the other teams enjoyed, and they have fallen to the back of the fleet. UNICEF is now in the lead, with 9 teams in close contention as they head ever further east. The crew of Dare to Lead are vying for 5th position, and aboard are 2 novice sailors from Mexico, who join the team in QINGDAO to enjoy their Pacific adventure together. But it's certainly testing them.
I heard about it from Fernando. I don't know where he found out.
Basically, what attracted us was crossing the Pacific. Not going around the world, but crossing something that you wouldn't cross normally.
I think about that every day. There's no need to cross the Pacific in a sailboat. Well, are we here again?
I don't know. We were lucky because we just said, can we sail together? Yeah, sure. And we had the same training, the same, and the same boat. Also, it helped that we're Mexican. It's like, you know what happens if you don't do it.
Somehow we get attracted to doing like we used to climb, rock climb together and scuba dive and like motorcycle together. So we kind of like to do like adrenaline stuff.
Not having my own space, that has proved more a challenge than anything else because so far in 3 weeks I've lost my head torch, my what else?
Your knife,
my
gloves.
water bottle.
When the weather is not too bad and you're on deck and you're like having good speed but not rough sea, you know you're doing good speed to Seattle and you're just cruising it really nice. That's the best when you can just like relax and see the ocean and the sun or the moon. That's the best.
Yeah, night sailing is the best.
Yep.
Coming up, a young South African sailor who had never seen the sea is now on his way to a new life, and the crews get to live the same day twice over as they cross the international date line. But first, the long-anticipated storms arrive, pushing the crews to their limits as they face up to the North Pacific's full fury. The Clipper race left QINGDAO in China on the next stage of the circumnavigation of the planet, a 5,600 nautical mile anticipated battle across the cold North Pacific Ocean. But the first week delivered frustratingly light winds. For the skipper and crew of Visit Seattle, there's huge disappointment aboard after a tactical decision to break away south of their rivals backfires.
We were doing really well in the lead, and about, must have been 100, 200 miles out from the gate, I made a decision to go south, looking for the current. And based on the weather forecast, it was probably a good decision, but the weather forecast did not pay out, and unfortunately we were the only boat that went there. So we went from first to last place, which is the worst feeling ever. 11th place is not somewhere where this team are normally sitting, and they're very competitive, so it was crushing for everyone, really. But I think more than that, that means we're going to be a day later in Seattle, and it means all these people who have their family waiting for them are going to have a day less with them. I'm going to have a day less with my family. The race has been really slow to start, so we're like a week behind everyone. You know, it's 12 days right now to the beginning of the arrival window, and we've got over 4,000 miles to go. So that would be like crossing the whole Southern Ocean in 12 days. So that's just not going to happen. I'm trying to stay cheerful, but you know, we've had to talk about rationing, and we've had to make a new food plan to make sure we have enough food to last, and just realigning expectations.
Nearing the end of the second week at sea, a North Pacific low has reached the fleet, and the swells have built, blown into huge rolling waves, with winds gusting 40 to 50 miles an hour. The teams are enjoying fast speeds, riding the waves, setting new records for this race so far, surfing down waves at over 25 knots in the freezing conditions. In this weather, only a few of the teams choose to alter course for the scoring gate, so it's Sanya Serenity Coast that takes 3 bonus points for crossing first, followed just 33 seconds later by fellow Chinese team QINGDAO, with UNICEF adding a bonus point in third. Despite their damaged mast track, the Dare to Lead crew are sailing fast and up to third position in the race. One of the crew members from South Africa is living his dream. 6 years ago, he'd never seen the sea, let alone a racing yacht. But he was selected to join a special program for less privileged youngsters to sail a leg of the 2013-14 edition of the Clipper race. Enthralled with the experience, he took up sailing as a career back home, supported by the Rainbow Foundation, completely changing his life. Now he's back as a qualified mate and aims to become a professional sailor.
So I was part of the Rainbow Foundation. In that year, we were doing a relay around the world. So we had 8 guys doing a leg each on the race around the world, and I was doing leg 6. After the finish, I felt great because that what actually inspired me of trying to become the future skipper of the next Clipper Edition race. And I'm back again, so yeah, it did good to me. It was always my next step to become the training first mate of the Clipper. But then when they said I was going to be the first mate of the race, it was really good for me because I really wanted to do more areas of the race. Also going to be applying for the 1920 edition as a skipper. So it gives me an advantage to actually sail in some of the areas that I've never had a chance to sail before in. What I'm hoping to achieve is, well, firstly, if I do well, people will recognize me that I'm capable of working with other skippers and getting the boat moving fast and safe. So to be recognized by the other crew on other boats that I can actually perform well on the boat. So to actually change people. Because I know there'll be guys that are just sort of doubting me about my position, but just to actually gain their trust and just to prove to them that I can do what I'm brought here to do.
Racing further and further east across this vast ocean, they are fast approaching the international dateline. But there is a major low-pressure system heading towards the teams, with severe weather predicted. They are sailing at the northern limits set in the race instructions. Beyond this is the danger of icebergs. The temperature is just 5 degrees Celsius, and the wind chill takes it well below zero. Conditions on deck are demanding. Layers of clothing are essential for warmth and waterproofing against the elements, but getting dressed and undressed on a speeding yacht is both tiring, takes practice, and there's no privacy. The Pacific is by far the largest ocean on Earth, covering almost a third of the world's entire surface, at around 63 million square miles. It's bigger than all of the combined land masses on the planet. Racing across it, these 70-foot yachts are dwarfed by this vast expanse of water as they approach the international dateline. The teams are so isolated that the nearest humans are in the International Space Station when it occasionally passes above. It's the most remote place on the planet, and now it's predicted to become hostile too.
The western side of the virtual beach is the international dateline, where you cross from 179 degrees 99999 east to 179 degrees 999 west. You cross, you're exactly opposite to the Greenwich meridian in the world, and the time goes from 12 hours after universal time to 12 hours before universal time. So essentially you gain a whole day. So we live the same day twice.
Aboard Dare to Lead, there's great interest to see the compass change from east to west in an instant.
It's great crossing the international dateline. It's another milestone in the Around the World adventure. We've crossed the equator twice now. The dateline was the next big thing, and it just shows that we are well and truly crossing off the miles to Seattle.
Tomorrow is our second sort of system that's forecast to come through. It's going to be quite big. We're looking at 40, 50 knots sustained, and then gusts into the 60s or 70s, which is pretty windy, and it's going to be upwind at first, which is a lot harder on the boat. So we've just spent today, prepping the boat for that, checking. We did a bit of a rig check and checked the sail and made sure everyone's getting enough rest and didn't push too hard. It should last 24, max 48 hours, so not too long. We can deal with that pretty well. A few nerves in the house, definitely, but it will be fine.
And the winds are rapidly increasing as the teams battle further east, with the two Chinese entries, Sanya Serenity Coast and QINGDAO, setting the pace. Visit Seattle are improving their pace and move up to 9th, with hopes of clawing back a good result. Although the predicted storm front is slower to descend over the Clipper race fleet than forecast, the 20th day at sea heralds its arrival with a howling gale. And everyone must draw on their inner strength to rise from their bunks and prepare to face Mother Nature at its wildest. There are enormous rolling swells. The winds are gusting to 60 knots, and more is coming. The crew of Visit Seattle have their storm sails up. and put reefs in their mainsail to make handling the yacht easier. But these are big and powerful yachts with no brakes. The air is raw, the wind howls, and the ocean rages. Big swells and white water stretch to the horizon and beyond. The Visit Seattle crew are on a northerly track and right in the teeth of the gale. The conditions appear overwhelming. Further away in the raging hurricane-force gusts, every team must face the mighty Pacific head-on. Now is the time for Charlie on Dare to Lead to step up or let the opportunity pass.
I finally got on the helm. I bit the bullet. I just needed a bit of a push to get on it, and once I did, I absolutely loved it, which was quite a surprise to me, but it was a good surprise. I had some big surfs. I hit a record speed of 25 knots on white sails, so that was quite cool, because normally you'd only get that sort of speed under spinnakers. And I think the highest wind I've been helming in is about 45 knots, which is a little bit fruity and exciting, but it's good. It's tough on the arms and the whole body, really. It's a good workout and definitely keeps you warm when it's absolutely freezing. You get just a little hint before you start surfing down a wave where it feels like you're on a plane and you're about to take off. Or if you're in like a Ferrari and you put your foot down, the boat just speeds away underneath your feet. And that's the moment where you're just like, oh, we're holding on for dear life. It's exciting, but it's also a little nerve-wracking. Yeah, there are moments when you're on the helm that the boat's too powerful, you know, the wind and the waves. There's a bit of a squeal now and again, either Justin or Malcolm comes out of my mouth, but they just give me a little push on the helm, just to give me that bit more brute force, so I can keep the boat downwind. Otherwise, you start rounding up, the boat heels, it's more pressure and power in the sails, and we're going the wrong way, ultimately. We want to get to Seattle.
And Jenny is taking on the challenge of this ferocious ocean too.
Now we're halfway through leg 6, it's not quite as scary as I thought it was going to be. I came into this absolutely terrified of what we were going to face. And we've had the wind hole at the start of the race, which was kind of some downtime for us as a team. And then we've now kind of come into some big weather. So this is probably more of what I was expecting. And actually, surprised myself at how confident I feel, given we're halfway through. So yeah, really looking forward to getting to Seattle now. It is a brutal leg, it's cold, it's wet, and it's really, really draining. So yeah, roll on the next 2,000 miles. I guess I want to be a good all-rounder, so it's important for me to pick up skill set in both the cockpit, on the foredeck, and helming when the conditions are right. So I want to walk away from this experience knowing that I've become a good sailor, and in all different, weather conditions, and with all different types of teams and capabilities. So, given I've now been 7 months on the boat, I like to try and help some of the new guys come on board and help them get the skills that maybe they just need refreshers in, and also help to kind of, play a key role in the evolutions that we do on the boat.
Coming up, the fleet emerges from the storms, battered and bruised as the home port team suffers another setback in their efforts to claw back places. There's love in the air with the prospect of yet more Clipper Race wedding bells. And in the final sprint to the finish line, there are more twists to come in the last week of this epic race across the North Pacific. The 11 Clipper race teams are in the freezing desolation of the North Pacific Ocean, just south of the iceberg limit, and are now 3 weeks into this epic 5,600 nautical mile crossing. They've already sailed through phenomenal hurricane-force winds, where their training kept everyone safe, despite the dramatic conditions they endured. In the midst of this extreme weather and bitter cold, with sleep deprivation through constant watch changes and the draining effect of the damp conditions, it's the team spirit that's keeping everyone going, giving everything to race hard. Aboard Visit Seattle, the crew reflect on sailing in hurricane-force gusts.
We just passed the storm. We're finally out of it. It's pretty heavy. The sea state was the highest possible rated, phenomenal. Winds over 100 knots, huge waves, 15, 20 meters. Big storm.
I've never felt afraid on the boat, even though you look behind and see the most amazing wall of water. You just kind of duck down and wait for the boat to roll through it. We came through it remarkably well. Everyone looked after each other and kept each other safe.
But the crew have been battling with a damaged mast track caused by the high winds in the storm. Jerome and skipper Nicky have been involved in fixing this, but having to drop the mainsail has cost them speed, and the team have lost precious miles after clawing their way back up from last place. Up the swaying mast in strong winds, it's hard to align all the elements of the track working at height. But it becomes too dangerous to continue as dusk falls, with energy fading too, and there's no choice but to sail on half power and sacrifice speed for safety.
We were both tired after having been up there for 6 or 7 hours. The sea state was also getting worse, so we were getting thrown around, and the risk of not being able to repair the mast at all was too high, so we decided to make the really tough call to stop. We were all disappointed that we couldn't finish the repair and get sailing again.
As dawn breaks, the repair team drag their weary bodies back up on deck and continue with this vital repair.
I said that I would get up at the break of day and start again, and then came down and have just had breakfast. And in that time, the other watch have hoisted the mainsail, and it's flying full main, and so far so good. So yeah, very, very tired, but very happy that we managed to do it.
With the leading yachts entering the Elliott Brown Ocean Sprint, where bonus points can be won for the fastest yachts between the 2 lines of longitude, it's QINGDAO and Sanya Serenity Coast setting the pace. And to add to the tactical options, teams can enter a stealth mode for up to 48 hours, hidden from the other teams on the race tracker. The finish in Seattle draws closer by the hour, and many crew are thinking of reunions with loved ones. For the bowman on the Dare to Lead team, the Clipper race has literally changed his life, as he is planning to leave his home in America after proposing to a fellow crew member he first met during training.
Unexpected benefit of this race was meeting Shona, one of our crewmates here on Dare to Lead. It wasn't really expecting to happen. Just once we were on prep and delivery, just kind of started working together, and we actually were working on the bow together, and then just kind of started hanging out, and things have kind of moved on from there. It was only the second half of leg 5 that we actually sailed together on the boat, and that was the one from Sanya to QINGDAO. The actual leg we did together, we were on different watches, so it was nice, just seeing each other during the handovers. But yeah, it was just nice to be back together after a break of nearly 3 months. She'll be in Seattle, so that'll be good to see her again, and then actually it'll be a little more interesting because being back in the U.S., so my mom and sister are coming up, and her mom actually lives in Salt Lake City, which is relatively close to Seattle, so be kind of a little family get-together, which should be interesting. Never really be too certain about the future, but now making plans. We're moving to London when the race is over, so yeah, we'll just continue where we are and see where it goes from there.
It's the 28th day of racing at sea, and the leaders are on the final run to the finish. On Visit Seattle, they are literally counting down the miles.
Currently, we're about 7 to 8 miles away from the finish line. We're so close. It's yeah, we can taste the finish. We are coming up to the Olympic Mountains, which is a big mountain range around Seattle, and it's hugely impressive. We can see the whole horizon, so we can see both Canada and the US, and so it's quite an impressive feeling to be arriving after such a long long journey and be welcomed by such a sight. I'm feeling really chuffed that we've made it. We've got a good, relaxed atmosphere on board, so it just makes everything a lot easier, despite the fact that everyone's tired, everyone's cold. So, no, feeling great.
But ahead of them for the crew on Dare to Lead, time to reflect on their Pacific adventure.
The race was cold. After the second week, I lost track of time, so.
We knew it was gonna be cold, we knew it was gonna be wet, we knew it was gonna be really long. It was like a concept, didn't really realize how long and cold it was gonna be. The storm was crazy. That phenomenal sea state was interesting and nice surfing on the waves. When you're driving, we had the waves coming from the back and you don't actually see them, you just feel like start surfing. But when you're not helming and you see the guys helming, you can just see the waves rising on the back and it's like, what's going on?
My love for sailing increased with this leg. Instead of diminishing, it went up. I don't know how to explain it, but I just lived another experience about sailing and I like it.
For me, in my case, it was harder, like mentally. So I had a rough time with the length. It would have been much harder if I hadn't had Fernando here. Yeah.
And the first team to complete the crossing, taking line honours and victory, is Chinese entry QINGDAO. And what a race to win. Having surmounted all of their issues across the Pacific, the Dare to Lead crew sailed into a wind hole just a mile from the finish line, costing them places, as their race finally comes to a close in 7th place.
Great, fantastic to finally finish. It's been a long slog, very tough at times, both physically and mentally, but to be able to finish just ecstatic. Highlights of the race. The beauty of the sheer power in the ocean. I think just sitting on deck and watching everything swarm around me, I think that's probably one of my highlights. At the time, you don't quite realise the sheer power behind the ocean and actually how strong the conditions are. You get off deck and it's when you're in your bunk listening to it roaring that you actually realise what you're in.
When the storm did come through, it was very big seas, big swells. It's nice to see the guys a bit big eyes when they're seeing the swells behind the boat. And we did handle it well, we sailed the boat well. We never had any damages and no crew was injured during the storm. So yeah, it was, we really sailed well and we worked well as a team as well. I think the highlight was actually surviving that storm.
The leading yachts arrive into the Puget Sound to the city of Seattle and see the magnificent waterfront for the first time. It's the winning team of QINGDAO who arrives first, relishing their inaugural victory in the Clipper race, while scoring a fabulous 15 points in this race, having also taken maximum bonus for the scoring gate success.
I'm really, really pleased I've done it. It wasn't as bad as, there weren't as many bad days as I thought there were going to be. At the moment, I feel I've fulfilled my Clipper challenge, and at the moment, I don't see it happening, but I don't think I said that at the end of the last race, but maybe I did.
Second into Belle Harbor Marina is the Sanya Serenity Coast team, securing their 5th podium position of this circumnavigation and maintaining their overall lead. There's delight all round, especially having set a new Clipper race speed record at almost 36 knots in the storm. Quite a marker for these 70-foot yachts. And third to reach Seattle is the crew of UNICEF, scoring only their 2nd podium position so far, but arriving safely after a Pacific crossing that had it all. Dare to Lead reaches Seattle later in the day, and there to greet the crew are excited friends and family, eager to see their loved ones.
It wasn't as bad as I thought, and it was more incredible than I thought. We experienced some of the most incredible, probably ocean scenes I'll ever experience, and to have that opportunity and to be able to sail through it and so brilliantly as a team was just incredible. So I'm really, really chuffed.
Early next morning, the crew of Visit Seattle celebrate after a punishing 29 days of racing as they finally finish their Pacific crossing in 8th place, having suffered the severest weather of all the Clipper race fleet.
We put ourselves in a position north, which meant that we got probably the worst of the winds. We were prepared for it, but when you're actually in it, it's just unreal. I mean, it was beautiful, actually. Beautiful in a really kind of aggressive way, really, really amazing.
There's tiredness, there's kind of weariness. I think it's been a really long leg, lots of different weather and sea states, but yeah, I'm thrilled that it's over, thrilled that we've survived, thrilled that we're still together as a team, that we've got a good kind of group dynamic, everyone's still getting on, and so that makes it a lot of fun to be on board. So, no, very, very happy.
There we go. After 9 races in this circumnavigation of the planet, Sanya Serenity Coast remain at the top of the leaderboard. But QINGDAO have closed the gap after their recent success. There's disappointment for Visit Seattle and have yet to play their joker for double race points. At the awards ceremony in Seattle, the third-place pennants go to the crew of UNICEF with skipper Bob Beggs. The Sanya Serenity Coast team collect yet more pennants to add to their collection, with a well-deserved second place. And the crew of QINGDAO are delighted to have finally scored their first victory after leading the fleet in so many races before. Next time, it's the US coast-to-coast leg as crews enjoy a long race in ideal spinnaker conditions from Seattle down to Panama. And there's excitement as the crews transit through one of the modern wonders of the world, the Panama Canal. And finally, a testing race through the Caribbean up to the Big Apple as the teams battle their way to New York in the race of their lives.